The smell hit Rowan first. Not smoke, not fuel, not the usual rot of a dead ship baking under a white dwarf sun. Something else. Something warm and alive hiding inside all that metal death. He had been cutting through the belly of the downed courier for 3 hours, cataloging hull plates and sorting salvageable components into his crawler's hold, when his nose told him to stop. He stopped. Rowan Cade had been working salvage runs in the Durith sector for 9 years. He was not the kind of man who ignored his instincts. His instincts had kept him breathing longer than most salvagers managed. So when something in the back of his skull said slow down, he set the plasma cutter on the hull plate and crouched low, tilting his helmet light toward the gap between a collapsed cargo frame and the inner wall of the ship. The gap was dark. The gap was also not empty. He saw the eyes first. Amber, wide, and very still. Not the reflexive shine of an animal caught in light. Something deliberate. Something that was looking back at him the same way he was looking at it. Rowan did not reach for anything on his belt. He did not call it in on the comm. He just held the light steady and waited. What he could make out, slowly, was small. Smaller than he expected. Dark scales, almost black, with a faint shimmer like oil on still water. Wings folded tight against the body. A tail curled around a dead power cell as if the cold metal was the only warmth available. One of the wings looked wrong. The membrane on the left side was torn, and the tissue around it had gone a dull gray-green where it should have been bright. He had seen enough injured creatures in his life to know that one was not well. He also knew, from 9 years of working near Drakvin shipping lanes, what a juvenile of that species looked like. He had never been this close to one. Nobody in his line of work usually got this close to one. Drakvin couriers moved fast and docked private and did not mix with salvage crews. This one had been in the wreck for a while. The bioskin on his wrist unit, run quietly so the sound would not carry, said 11 days. 11 days with no food that he could detect, a torn wing membrane, and a dead power cell for warmth. He thought about that for a moment. Then he set his helmet light down, angled toward the ceiling so it lit the space softly and not directly into the creature's eyes. He pulled off his outer thermal layer, the heavy one, good down to -40, and he laid it flat on the floor in front of him like he was making a bed. He sat back on his heels and kept his hands open and visible. "You don't look like you want to be found," he said. His voice came out quiet, which was what he intended. The amber eyes blinked once. And then the small dragon opened her mouth, and what came out was not a hiss, not a sound he had any frame of reference for. What came out was language. Clear, slightly formal galactic common, spoken in a voice that was light but entirely steady. "I know, but you were the one I was waiting for." Rowan did not move. He did not breathe. He counted, later, when he had the presence of mind to think about it at all, that he stayed completely still for somewhere between 8 and 12 seconds. He was not a man who startled easily. He had been in decompression events, equipment failures, 2 separate pirate intercepts, and a hull breach that had taken 3 of his fingers before the med seal caught up. None of those had produced this particular feeling. The feeling was not fear. It was something more unsettling than fear. It was the sense that the ground under a very long story had just shifted, and he had not known he was standing on it. The dragon watched him with those amber eyes and did not look away. Rowan breathed out slowly. He looked at the torn wing. He looked at the dead power cell she had been curled around. He looked at the 11-day-old hollow in the debris where her body had worn a small impression into the dust. He was not a complicated man. He did not have a plan. He had a thermal layer on the floor and 2 open hands and the knowledge that whatever came next, leaving her in that gap, was not something he was going to do. He reached out slowly, palms up, and waited. She looked at his hands for a long moment. Then, moving carefully, favoring the bad wing, she stepped forward onto the thermal layer and let him fold it around her. She weighed almost nothing. He carried her back to the crawler, one hand under her, one hand over the thermal layer to hold the warmth in. The sun was low and orange over the salvage field. Nothing moved out in the debris except old things settling. He did not know what she had meant. He did not know why she had been waiting, or what she had been waiting for, or what any of it was going to cost him. He knew one thing. She had said he was the one she was waiting for, and she had said it the same way a person states a fact they have known for a long time. That was the part that sat in his chest the whole ride back. That, and the weight of her, which was barely there at all. She ate 3 strips of dried protein ration and then looked at him like he had personally offended her ancestors. Rowan stared back. That is all I have. It is processed, she said. It is food. She ate a 4th strip without further comment, which he took as acceptance. He had spread the thermal layer across the fold-out bunk in his crawler's rear cabin and watched her settle into it with the careful economy of something that had learned not to waste movement. Her left wing was still folded wrong. He could see the torn membrane more clearly now under the crawler's interior light. It had begun to close on its own. Drakvin had fast tissue repair. He knew that much from general knowledge, but it needed cleaning and probably something to keep it from sealing over a pocket of infection. He had a basic med kit. He had dealt with worse on himself. I need to look at the wing, he said. She considered this for a moment. Then she unfolded it, slowly, laying the damaged side toward him. The trust in that gesture, quiet and without ceremony, did something strange to the back of his throat. He worked carefully, cleaned the wound with antiseptic foam, removed a small fragment of hull metal he found buried at the tier's edge, applied a thin membrane sealant from the kit. She did not make a sound. She watched his hands the entire time with those steady amber eyes. When he was done, she refolded the wing and said, "You are precise." "I've been fixing things a long time," he said. "Yes," she said, as if this confirmed something she already knew. That was the 3rd time in 4 hours she had answered him in a way that felt less like response and more like verification. He let it sit. There would be time for questions. Right now she needed rest more than he needed answers. He filed his daily salvage log on the station uplink, listed the courier's condition, noted the cargo frames as unsalvageable, and did not mention the living passenger. Then he put the crawler on low-power standby and sat in the front seat with the viewport dim and thought about what he had done. The station bioscan ran every 48 hours. It checked all registered vessels, all cargo holds, all crew manifests. A Drakvin juvenile was not on his manifest because there was no category on his manifest that fit. He could report her to the station authority. That was the legal thing. That was the clean thing. He did not move to open the comm. His friend Finn showed up the next morning without warning, the way Finn always did, because Finn believed that announcing yourself before arrival was a concept for people with things to hide. He knocked twice on the crawler hatch and let himself in with the spare code Rowan had given him 2 years ago for emergencies, which Finn interpreted broadly. He got 3 steps into the cabin before he stopped moving entirely. Sable was sitting on the bunk, eating her 5th protein strip, watching Finn with calm interest. Finn made a sound that was not quite a word. "Close the hatch," Rowan said from the front seat. Finn closed the hatch. He looked at Rowan. He looked at Sable. He looked at Rowan again. "That is a dragon," Finn said. "Yes," Rowan said. "A baby dragon." "She can't hear you." Finn looked at Sable. "Hello," he said, very carefully, the way a person greets something they are not sure has teeth. "Hello," Sable said. "You are Finn. Rowan has not mentioned you, but your work ID is on the crawler's secondary access log. Dockworker, 3rd grade. You have visited this crawler 11 times in the past 4 months." Finn stared at her for a long moment. Then he sat down on the floor because there was nowhere else to sit, and he looked at Rowan with an expression that asked many questions at once without committing to any of them. Rowan answered the most important one. "Bioscan is in 31 hours. Finn rubbed his face. "She can't pass as cargo." "No. You need a false manifest." "I know. I can do the manifest," Finn said, after a pause. "Biological specimens, non-sapient, med stasis. My supervisor never reads the detail fields." He paused again. "She is sapient." "Very," Sable said. Finn looked at the ceiling. "Right." He looked back at Rowan. "This is going to be a problem eventually." "I know," Rowan said again. "Then why are you not more worried?" Rowan thought about that. The honest answer was that he had already decided, somewhere between the salvage field and the crawler bay, that the worry was beside the point. He had found something that needed help. He had helped it. The consequences were a separate issue to be dealt with when they arrived. "I am worried," he said. "I'm just not doing it out loud." Finn filed the false manifest that afternoon. Biological specimens, non-sapient, sealed container, med stasis. The detail field said nothing worth reading. The bioscan passed them clean. That evening, Sable moved from the bunk to the co-pilot seat on her own, which surprised him. She sat with her tail wrapped around the base of the chair and looked out the viewport at the docking ring's traffic and said nothing for a long time. Then she said, "You will not hand me over." "You said that before," he told her. "I know. I wanted to say it again." He looked at her profile against the light of the docking ring. The wing had already improved. The membrane was sealing faster than he expected. "Get some sleep," he said. She did not argue. She closed her eyes. And for the first time since he had found her, the tension in her small body went still. Outside, the station turned slowly in the dark. 31 hours had come and gone, and nothing had found them yet. But Rowan was a salvager. He knew the difference between safe and delayed. The compact vessel docked at Bay 7 without a reservation. Rowan noticed it the way he noticed most things that could cause him problems, quietly, from a distance, while pretending to check inventory on his crawler's rear hold. The ship was military-grade, mid-size, with the compact's double-ring insignia painted in white on the nose. Clean hull. Recent fuel burn. It had not come a long way. It had come fast. 2 armed escorts came down the ramp first, then a man in a commander's uniform, straight-backed, unhurried, the kind of walk that assumed everyone would move out of the way. He was not wrong about that. The docking ring crew gave him a wide berth without being asked. Rowan went back to his inventory list and kept his breathing even. An hour later, the station comm buzzed his personal channel. "Director Osmond's office. Please come by at your earliest convenience." The phrase, "earliest convenience," in Osmond's office meant now. Rowan left Sable with a firm instruction to stay off the comm and stay on the bunk. She looked at him with those amber eyes and said nothing, which he was learning to understand as agreement rather than indifference. Osmond's office was on the administrative level, 1 floor above the docking ring. The director was a short man with gray at his temples and the permanently tired expression of someone who had been managing other people's problems for 20 years too long. He was sitting behind his desk when Rowan came in. He was not alone. The commander was standing by the viewport. He turned when Rowan entered and studied him for a moment before speaking. "Rowan Cade, Salvager, Sector 7 through 12. The commander's voice was neutral and practiced. "I am Commander Brex, Galactic Compact Enforcement Division. I am here regarding a lost compact research subject. A juvenile Drakvin, tagged and catalogued, whose beacon went dark 3 months ago in your work sector." He held up a data card. "This writ authorizes recovery." Rowan looked at the writ. It was real. He could tell by the layered seal on the card's edge and the compact cipher running along the bottom. He had seen enough forged documents in the salvage trade to recognize one that wasn't. "I cover a lot of ground out there," Rowan said. "A lot of wrecks. This specific wreck. Drakvin Courier, call sign Verith 9. You filed a salvage log on it 4 days ago. Hull and frame salvage. Cargo frames were too warped to recover. I noted that in the log. You noted no living occupants. There were none when I checked." Director Osmond was watching this exchange with the careful neutrality of a man who wanted to remain uninvolved in whatever was coming next. Rowan respected that. It was not the most heroic position, but Osmond was a station administrator, not a combatant. Brex held eye contact for 5 full seconds. He was good at it. Rowan had met harder men in worse places and had learned, over time, that holding still was more useful than holding firm. "If you encounter anything relevant," Brex said finally, "you are legally obligated to report it to compact enforcement." "Understood," Rowan said. He walked back to the lift and pressed the button for the docking level and stood there in the small moving box and thought about how much trouble he was in. He had left the crawler's secondary comm channel open. It was a habit. When he was on station, he kept it live in case of equipment alerts. He had not thought to close it before the meeting. He realized this when he was still 2 corridors away from the docking ring, because he heard Sable's voice coming through Osmond's overhead speaker system. It was calm and clear and addressed to no one in the corridor except everyone on that channel. "Commander Brex." Rowan stopped walking. The voice came again, through every speaker on that station level, in a formal register he had not heard her use before. The words were measured and deliberate and carried a weight that had nothing to do with volume. "I invoke Elder Ward. You have no jurisdiction here." The docking ring went quiet in a way that large, busy spaces rarely go quiet. The kind of quiet where everyone stops not because something told them to, but because something very old just walked through the room. Rowan started walking again, faster. By the time he got back to Osmond's office, Brex was still standing by the viewport. His expression had changed. Not broken, but recalculated. The kind of face a man makes when a game he understood completely has just revealed a piece he did not know was on the board. Osmond was staring at his own comm panel like it had betrayed him personally. Brex spoke first. "Elder Ward," he said. Not a question. A man reading a word in a document he had not expected to find. Under the original Compact Treaty, the one signed before the Compact was called the Compact, back when the Drakvin and the founding species were still negotiating what cooperation looked like. A Drakvin juvenile who invoked Elder Ward was claiming sanctuary with a chosen guardian. It was not a request. It was not a filing. It was a legal status older than most of the laws Brex's writ was written under, and it could not be overridden by enforcement action. Rowan knew this because Sable had quietly explained the entire framework to him the previous evening in about 4 minutes. In the same tone she used to tell him his protein rations were processed. "Who?" Brex said, carefully. "Is the claimed guardian?" Sable's voice came through the speaker one more time, steady as a held note. "Rowan Cade, registered salvager. You have his file." Brex looked at Rowan. Rowan looked back at him and said nothing, because there was nothing useful to add. Brex withdrew his writ. He told Rowan, quietly, on the way out of the office, that the matter was not closed. His voice was even when he said it. Not threatening, just factual. The same way weather is factual. Rowan walked back to the docking ring alone. He opened his crawler hatch. Sable was sitting in the co-pilot seat looking out the viewport at Bay 7, where the compact vessel sat in silence. Rowan sat down. He looked at her. She looked back at him. "You want to tell me what is going on?" he said. "Yes," she said, "but not yet. I'm ready now." "I know you think that," she said, "but there is a difference between being ready to hear words and being ready to understand them. I will tell you everything. I just need you to be the second kind of ready." He looked at the compact vessel. He looked at her. He let out a long, slow breath. "How long?" he asked. She tilted her head, considering. "1 more day," she said. "Maybe 2. 2 nights after Brex withdrew, the lights in the docking ring dropped to their low setting and the crawler went quiet, and Sable said, "Now." Rowan put down the wiring harness he had been mending and turned to face her. She sat on the co-pilot seat with her tail around her feet and her repaired wing held loosely at her side, and she looked at him the way she always looked at him, like she was reading something written in a language he did not know he was writing. "Before I was born," she said, "my elders chose what I would carry." He waited. "Drakvin do not pass knowledge the way your species does. Not through study, not through record. We pass it through memory, true memory, lived memory, the kind that sits in the body as well as the mind. Before a juvenile is born, the elders select a lineage of memories and imprint them. I carry the memories of 6 Drakvin who lived and died across 3 centuries. I remember their lives. I remember what they saw." Rowan said, "What did they see?" "Humans," she said. "All 6 of them spent significant time among your species. Not as diplomats, not as observers, as participants. They were present in human situations. Ordinary ones. They saw how humans behave when no one important is watching." She paused. "Most species perform decency. They are decent when it costs them nothing, or when someone is recording. Your species does something different. Some of you, not all, not even most, are decent when it is inconvenient, when it costs something real, when there is no recording and no reward." "That's not unique to us," Rowan said. "No," she agreed. "But the shape of it is different. The species who do this, they tend to do it because of a system, or a belief, or a code. Your species does it sometimes for no reason at all, just because something needed doing and they were the one standing there." She tilted her head. "That is rarer than you think." Rowan said nothing. "My elders have been watching for a specific situation for a long time," she continued. "Something is coming. Not a war, not yet. A shift, a decision point for many species, including ours. The Drakvin are not a large people. We are old and we are few, and there are those who want what we carry in our memories, not to preserve it, but to use it, to take the lineage imprinting and turn it into a tool." "The contractor group," Rowan said. "The ones who hit the courier." "Yes, they have been moving for 2 years. My elders have known. They have been building a case. carefully, slowly, in the compact's own legal framework, because that is the only arena where the evidence means something. She looked at him steadily. They needed a witness from inside the compact structure to file the prosecution. Someone with command-level codes and enough standing that the filing could not be easily dismissed. Brex, Rowan said. He has been investigating the ambush separately. He does not know this yet. He will. Rowan leaned back against the wall of the crawler and looked at the ceiling. You came to me because your elders sent you to me specifically. Yes. Why me? Because you appear in the memories, she said. In 2 of the 6 imprinted lineages, there is a human. Not by name, not then, but by pattern. A salvager, Sector 7 through 12. Someone who works near Drakven's shipping lanes and keeps to himself and does not file reports about things that need protecting. Rowan was quiet for a moment. The memories are from the future. No, they are from the past. But the imprinting process, the way elders select which memories to carry, it is not random. They choose based on what the juvenile will need. And sometimes that choosing reaches forward as well as back. It is not prophecy. It is pattern recognition across a very long time. She looked at him calmly. My elders chose those particular memories because they contain you. Or someone enough like you that when I saw your hands come through that hull gap, I knew. That landed on him heavily. He let it land. That is a lot to put on a salvager, he said. Yes, she said, with what he was starting to recognize as her version of sympathy. What happens if I get it wrong? The same thing that happens when anyone gets it wrong, she said. Things become harder for those who come after. But Rowan, you have not gotten it wrong yet. Not once. Not from the moment you set the cutter down and turned the light away from my eyes so it would not hurt them. He looked at her. She looked back. Outside the viewport, the station turned slowly in its orbit, and the stars beyond the docking ring were the same stars that had been there for longer than any memory any species had ever managed to carry. He did not say anything profound. He was not built for profound. He was built for the next task and the one after that. Tomorrow, he said, I'm going to request a second meeting with Brex. She blinked once. Yes. You knew I was going to say that. I thought you might, she said. I hoped. He picked up the wiring harness again and kept working. The crawler was quiet except for the hum of the station's recyclers and the small sound of Sable settling her wing more comfortably against her side. After a while she said, Rowan. Yeah. Thank you. For the thermal layer. The first night. He did not look up. Go to sleep. She did. And in the dark of the docking ring, something that had been waiting for a very long time let out a long, quiet breath and settled into place. Rowan sent Brex a message through the station's formal request channel at the start of the next shift. No details. Just, I have information relevant to your investigation. Formal meeting room. Your call on the time. Brex replied within 20 minutes. 2 hours. Alone. The meeting room on Durith Station's administrative level was small and plain. A table, for chairs, a wall screen no one used, a ventilation unit that hummed at a frequency that had probably been bothering everyone for years. Rowan got there first and sat on the side facing the door. He had Sable on his left, sitting on the table, which he suspected Brex had not expected and which Brex, when he arrived, registered with only a single blink before sitting down. No escorts. He had meant it. Brex set his datapad face down on the table. He looked at Sable for a moment, then at Rowan. You lied to me, Brex said. Yes, Rowan said. Brex nodded once, slowly. I would have done the same. He looked at Sable. Elder Ward is not something you invoke lightly. No, Sable said. It is not. Brex was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up his datapad, turned it over, and slid it across the table. On the screen was an incident report. Incomplete, flagged, with 3 sections blacked out in the compact's standard redaction format. I know who attacked the courier, he said. I have known for 6 weeks. The attack signature matched a contractor group my division has been tracking for 2 years. They operate under a compact procurement shell. Officially, they do logistics research. What they actually do is intelligence acquisition, which is a polite term for taking things that do not belong to them. He looked at Sable. I did not know what was on the courier. Officially, it was a standard run. When the beacon went dark, I flagged the sector and started pulling records, and the attack pattern told me everything except why. Now you know why, Sable said. Lineage imprinting, he said. It came out flat, which meant it cost him something to say it that way. They believe it can be decoded and transferred, Sable said. Implanted into non-Drakvin neural architecture. Centuries of consolidated memory, made available on demand to whoever controls the process. Brex said nothing for a moment. That would be worth a great deal to certain people. Yes, Sable said. And it would also destroy every juvenile that was used in the attempt. The process is not separable from the person. They know this. They do not consider it a problem. The ventilation unit hummed. Brex looked at the table. I cannot prosecute this through standard channels, he said. The group has procurement ties to 3 division heads. Any filing I make through the normal structure gets read by someone who will bury it before it reaches adjudication. He paused. What I can do is submit an internal prosecution request through my personal command codes. It bypasses the division level and goes directly to compact judicial review. It cannot be intercepted at the division level. It can only be dismissed at the judicial level, and judicial review is public record. Rowan said, What does that cost you? Brex looked at him. My career, probably. The 3 division heads have long memories. He said it the same way he might say the weather outside was cold. Factual. Already accepted. Then why are you telling us this? Rowan said. Brex was quiet for a long moment. Because I have been trying to build this case for 6 weeks, and I have not been able to do it alone. I need a witness statement from a survivor of the attack. Without that, the filing is circumstantial and dismissible. With it, it is not. He looked at Sable. You are the only survivor I know of. Sable said, Yes, I will give the statement. She opened the room's secure comm panel from across the table. Rowan still was not entirely used to how she did things like that, and dialed a frequency he did not recognize. It rang twice. The voice that answered was old in a way that Rowan felt in his chest before he understood it. Low, slow, and very clear. Speaking galactic common with an accent that belonged to no region anyone still lived in. Sable, the voice said. Delara, Sable said. It is time. There was a short exchange in Drakvin, quick, precise, nothing that felt like argument. Then the old voice addressed Brex directly. Commander, we have been watching your investigation. We have supporting records from 2 other surviving crew members of Varith 9 who reached Drakvin space before the beacon failed. Their testimony, combined with the juveniles, meets the threshold for a compact judicial filing. We will transmit the supporting records to your personal secure channel in 1 hour. Brex straightened slightly. You have been building this in parallel. We have been building this for longer than your investigation, Dolores said. We were waiting for the right point of contact inside the compact structure. Someone with standing. Someone who had already chosen to look at this without being asked. A pause. You chose correctly, Commander. Even when it was difficult. We noticed. Brex was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded, to a voice coming through a speaker, in the way a person nods when something that has been heavy for a long time is finally acknowledged. Send the records, he said. The channel closed. Sable gave her witness statement in the following hour. She was precise and detailed and did not embellish and did not omit. Rowan sat across from her and watched and said nothing. Brex recorded everything with his personal command codes attached, as promised. When it was done, Brex stood and gathered his data pad. He looked at Rowan. The ward record is filed, he said. Guardian of record, Rowan Cade. It is in the compact system. It cannot be altered without Drakvin elder consent. He paused. You did not ask for this. No, Rowan said. Are you all right with it? Rowan looked at Sable. She looked back at him with those amber eyes and did not say anything, because she already knew the answer, and she was giving him the space to say it himself. Yeah, Rowan said. I'm all right with it. Brex left without further ceremony. He had a filing to submit, and, somewhere on the other side of it, a career to watch change shape. Sable watched the door close. Then she looked at Rowan. You knew I was going to say yes, he said. I hoped, she said, which was the same thing she had said before, and he was starting to understand that for her, hope and certainty were not the same thing, even when she seemed very sure. He stood up and stretched his back. Come on, he said. Let's go back to the crawler. She climbed onto his shoulder, which she had not done before. He decided not to comment on it. He just walked, and she rode, and the station turned outside the windows, and somewhere in the compact judicial system, a filing with a commander's personal codes attached was beginning its long climb toward people who could not ignore it. 3 weeks later, the contractor group's compact funding was suspended pending judicial review. 2 of the 3 division heads were placed on administrative hold. The third resigned quietly before anyone could ask why. Rowan read this in a 2-paragraph update on the compact's public notice board, wedged between a shipping lane realignment and a routine tariff change. Nobody at Durith Station remarked on it. Nobody knew what it meant or why it had happened. It was, on its surface, entirely unremarkable. He folded his data pad, set it on the dashboard, and said nothing. Sable, sitting in the co-pilot's seat, had already read it. She said nothing either. They had both learned that some moments were better held quietly than spoken into smaller. A message came from Delara that afternoon. Not long, not ceremonial, just text on the secure channel, in plain galactic common. The ward record stands. The filing holds. You did not ask to be chosen. That is why you were. Rowan read it twice. Then he saved it to the local drive and went to go check the crawler's fuel lines, because the fuel lines had been making a sound they were not supposed to make, and he had been putting it off for 4 days. Finn appeared at the hatch an hour later, which was normal, but he was carrying something, which was less normal. It was a metal frame, welded together from spare conduit pipes, with a heated interior panel bolted to the base and the edges lined with insulation foam that had clearly been cut from several different sources because it was 3 different colors. He set it down inside the crawler's rear cabin with the care of a man presenting something he was privately proud of. For the dragon, he said. Sable came out of the front cabin to inspect it. She walked around it once, testing the heat output with one small hand, pressing on the foam with the tip of one claw, checking the structural integrity of the frame by apparently just looking at it. It is adequate, she said. Finn beamed. Rowan looked at the structure. It was ugly in the specific way that things built by someone who cares more about function than appearance tend to be ugly. It was also clearly going to do exactly what it was meant to do. Good work, Rowan said. Finn shrugged, which meant thank you, and left before anyone could make it a bigger moment than it needed to be. The medical tech Yilla came by later that same day, uninvited, with a small scanning unit and an air of profound professional skepticism. She had been hearing things. The station was not large and Finn was not quiet. She looked at Sable with the expression of a person who has spent her career seeing unusual things and has developed no patience for being surprised by them. Wing, Yilla said. Sable unfolded it. Yilla scanned it. She looked at the readout. She looked at Sable. Clean seal. Good tissue regeneration. Better than it should be, honestly, but I'm not going to argue with results. She packed up the scanner. Stay off it for another week. No extended flight. I was not planning to fly today, Sable said. Noted. Yilla looked at Rowan on her way out. You know this is going to change things. Yeah, Rowan said. Not just for you. I know. She left. She did not say what she thought about any of it, which Rowan respected. Yilla kept her opinions where they were useful and left them where they were not. That evening, when the docking ring's traffic thinned and the light through the viewport went to the deep orange of the station's night cycle, Sable climbed down from the co-pilot's seat, walked out to the cargo bay, and spread both wings. The left one caught the light differently than the right. The membrane was slightly paler where it had healed, a thin tracery of slightly lighter scale running along the repaired edge. It did not look damaged. It looked like a map of something survived. She beat both wings once. Then again. Slow, deliberate. Not flight. Not yet, but the test of a body checking whether it was still its own. Rowan watched from the hatch and did not say anything. She folded them back in and returned to the crawler. She climbed back into the co-pilot's seat and looked out at the stars without speaking for a while. Then, Rowan. Yeah. What comes next? For you. For us. He thought about it the way he thought about most things, practically, without decoration. I've got a contract in the outer ring of this sector. 3 weeks of work, maybe 4. After that there's a decommissioned Platform 2 systems over that someone wants stripped down. He paused. It's steady work. Not glamorous. I am not interested in glamour, she said. I know. You were going to say something after that, she said. He was. He had been trying to figure out how to say it without it sounding like more than it was, or less than it was, or like the kind of thing a person says when they are making a large decision and trying to dress it as a small one. He gave up on dressing it. You come with, he said, unless you've got somewhere better to be. She was quiet for a moment, not the hesitation of uncertainty, the quiet of something that has waited a long time to land properly and is taking a second to recognize that it has. No, she said. This is where I am supposed to be. Good, he said. Then stop asking. He started the crawler's pre-departure cycle. Systems check, fuel levels, external sensor sweep. The sounds of a machine preparing to go back out and do what it was built to do. Somewhere in the compact's administrative database, a ward record sat with a guardian name attached. Rowan Cade, Salvager, Sector 7 through 12. The record was plain and had no annotation. Nobody had flagged it. Nobody had noticed it sitting there in the system among 10,000 other routine filings. Nobody yet knew what it was going to mean. The Drakven did. They had 6 lifetimes of memory that said so. The second time was better. She was not being carried anymore. She was going with